thought I'd take the moment to just like list out some facts that many of you probably don't know because you're white.
Does this qualify as black-splaining? This kind of goes without saying, but can anyone else imagine if the roles were reversed and it was a white person on stage talking about how the audience doesn't know certain things because they're black? No one else could get away with that sort of blatant racism.
But Blaire, reverse racism isn't real.
Yeah, I know, it's just racism.
Blaire White, YouTuber, transgender commentator. You can search Blaire White on Twitter or YouTube. Her accounts will come up. And again, when this goes up on YouTube, we'll put the links in the description. Now, Blaire, you posted a video about a week ago, I think, called Black Lives Matter is Trash. You went straight out there with it, got in people's faces, basically, with the truth. You know, the video talked about, and in fact, we can see some of it in the background here. You talked about how these Black Lives Matter morons crashed this vigil to the Orlando massacre victims to reinforce their oppression Olympics hierarchy. And then you basically went through the fact that Black Lives Matter as a movement has completely failed. You know, we got race relations, the worst in modern history. We've got black people still killing each other in droves. Now Black Lives Matter, the ideology is inspiring actual terrorists to go out and kill people. And of course, the big one for me, millions of Americans are now not even interested in police brutality or addressing it as an issue because of its association with this colossally stupid, violent, and divisive Black Lives Matter movement. Now, you put out this video. Tell us what was in the video and what happened after you posted it.
Okay, so in the video, it was, I think it was at Mizzou, and it was a Black Lives Matter activist who hijacked the stage and the microphone to basically advertise Black Lives Matter racial demonstrations and say that the people that were there to mourn the deaths of the 49 people slain in the Orlando shooting were racists, implying that they were unintelligent because they were white, and basically just using it to push her own narrative rather than to be respectful for what it was, which was, you know, mourning 49 slain people. It's pretty amazing.
And we saw the same thing in, I think it was Toronto, Canada, last weekend, where they hijacked this gay pride march to reinforce this oppression Olympics. I think there's this fear that, you know, their control of that narrative of gay people in general, of this LGBT community, which you're a member of, is starting to slip away. And those people are being relegated. They're being put up at the bottom of the oppression Olympics hierarchy. And they're trying to reinforce, again, their supremacy, because Black Lives Matter is a divisive supremacist group, above those people, because, again, they're starting to listen to people like you, people like me. I mean, after Orlando, I got so many positive messages from gay people, from LGBT people, you know, saying that they were buying guns. They were starting to watch conservative libertarian YouTube videos. They were starting to think about voting for Donald Trump because they're just sick of being told what to think by the left. So you posted this video, and then the peaceful Black Lives Matter group, Sally Cohn and CNN told me it was peaceful, so I guess it is. They weren't too happy with it. Tell us what happened afterwards.
No, you know, unlike when I make a video about, say, feminism, where you'll have like two feminists in the comment sections arguing, Black Lives Matter is actually very organized. And if they set a target, they're coming for a target. And basically what happened was one prominent Twitter in the Black Lives Matter, I don't know, community shared my video. And then from there, it was just like they descended, which is totally fine because I make videos to encourage, you know, discourse and disagreement and everything. But no one really challenged the ideas in my video. They just kind of made, you know, ad hominem attacks. And eventually a Twitter got a hold of me. They're a doxing Twitter. And on their timeline, they had doxed like dozens and dozens of people, including their addresses, phone numbers, other information, employers, and were encouraging people to actually go to their homes and enact violence upon them. So at that point, I decided to kind of go on a social media blackout. And I kind of said, because a few of my family members were getting messaged, and I was kind of like, I'll take the heat, but my family didn't really sign up to be as public as me. So I did go kind of under, and people were saying I was banned. I saw that you tweeted that I was like banned by Twitter, which I could see why people would think that, because given the current climate, a lot of voices like ours are being censored, but it wasn't the case.
You had to basically deactivate your Twitter account because these people were posting your address or trying to get your address, trying to get other people to threaten you. Again, we saw the same thing about a week or two ago with the 16-year-old Trump supporter. Remember, we put out the footage of him basically disagreeing with this stupid Black Lives Matter supporter who thought that Donald Trump's wife was an illegal immigrant, basically completely owned him in a debate. That guy got some attention on, YouTube, on Twitter. They posted a picture of him at his workplace. They actively tried to encourage other BLM people to go out and harass this 16-year-old black kid simply because he supports Donald Trump.
Teen Trump supporter chastised at a Trump rally right here in Atlanta is now being threatened by people all over the country. Some of the attacks are even happening at the 16-year-old's job.
You've had death threats?
Absolutely.
How many?
Probably, I can say, I'm thinking about 7 or 8.
And even bullied at work.
I've been referred to as a coon, as a Uncle Tom.
So again, the point I make over and over again, leftists are the most intolerant people in politics. And again, while they claim to celebrate and advance the LGBT community, it seems to me that they save their most vicious attacks for members of the LGBT community who dare to disagree with them. So why do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
Basically what it is, Black Lives Matter unless it's a black person who disagrees with you. Because I saw a bunch of tweets from them towards that kid that you guys had on your channel. And they were saying they were going to kill him, beat him up, find his workplace, find his house. It was crazy. And I saw evidence on the Twitter that was doxing me and others, that people were actually talking about going to people's homes. That's kind of the main reason why I went under. And then the LGBT thing, of course, SJWs claim to care about trans lives, trans voices, talk about how we're always silenced, but they care when trans people are parroting their agenda. They don't care when trans people have their own opinions, which may differ from theirs.
No, exactly. I mean, look at what happened with Caitlyn Jenner. When she first came out last year, she was celebrated as a goddess by the left. They were bow down to the goddess. How dare you even criticize or critique her lifestyle? Then she came out, a few months later, or 6 months later, as quite a vehement conservative. She attacked Hillary Clinton on her own show. And then suddenly she wasn't so well liked by the left, correct?
Isn't that funny how the new thing in 2016 is coming out as a conservative, or coming out as not being progressive, when it used to be coming out as trans or coming out as gay? I just think it's funny. I've had so many people message me saying that they are either LGBT or just anyone, and they are so uncomfortable to share their political views or their social views because they'll lose their job. And I don't really blame them. There's a small number of us that are actually willing to be on the internet and be super open and use our names and show our faces, because it actually is kind of risky.
No, it is. And it's the same with Brexit here in the United Kingdom, and especially London. I mean, I went to a Brexit drinks party a couple of weeks ago, and everyone there said, I'm afraid to tell anyone that I voted for Brexit because I might get fired, because I might get socially ostracized. And again, why is that? Why can't conservatives be comfortable in their political views? Well, it's because leftists are intolerant, and they will gang up in groups to publicly shame people to get them fired. And again, in some cases, with the more violent extremist elements of Black Lives Matter, actually threaten to go out and target people, harass them violently in their own homes. So again, it underscores the fact that the left is completely intolerant.
Absolutely. And I think one of the main criticisms I got of my video from BLM was that, of course, that I was racist, that I was speaking against Black people. I think it's interesting that there's this conflation of Black people and Black Lives Matter, when in reality, there's a lot of people of all races within the movement. Of course, there's a lot of Black people, but I was looking at the news story of all those protesters that were arrested who were blocking traffic. I think it was on I-49 or something. Forgive me if that number is wrong, but and they were all white that were arrested. So that tells you possibly two things, right? It tells you that, first of all, criticizing Black Lives Matter is not inherently criticizing Black people, because it's full of white people in the movement as well. And then it also kind of shows that the police right now are scared to arrest Black people. If all the protesters that were arrested, literally every single one, I think there was 25 or 30, were white.
No, that's the point. Black Lives Matter is an ideology. It's not a race.
Yeah.
That's like saying if you criticize feminism, then you hate women. Feminism is not a gender. Okay, you've got the Washington Times reporting today. Black Vanderbilt professor says Black Lives Matter movement is pure Marxism. Okay, this is a black female professor criticizing Black Lives Matter. Is she racist? You have the black Harvard economist who did this study, which found that there was no racial bias in officer-involved shootings. And in fact, if you look at Houston, he found that black people were 20% less likely to get shot by cops compared to white people. Again, black Harvard economist. Is he racist for coming out with a study that counters the Black Lives Matter narrative? Again, BLM is not a race, it's an ideology. Ideologies are not immune from criticism, and calling somebody a racist isn't an argument. It's not a rebuttal. Now, I wanted to ask you here, we got about 5 minutes left. There's also this YouTuber, I believe, who attacked you in a video called Onision. And basically, this is a guy who makes videos claiming that feminism is about gender equality because that's what the dictionary definition says. When, of course, we know that modern feminism is actually this, you know, leftist supremacist hate movement that has nothing whatsoever to do with equality. But he has got a pretty substantial YouTube audience, which mainly consists of 15-year-old girls. In fact, he had a poll on his Twitter in which he asked how old his audience was, and most of them were, you know, 14 to 17 years old. But again, that's quite a sizable mob. He did a video attacking you, and again, your accounts got flooded with harassment. Is that correct?
Yeah, but you know, I'm never one to be like, oh, people are harassing me. It's not really that. First of all, the hate mob was 13-year-olds, so I was not really affected. But I think that's all that's all you really need to know about them, is that they're all, you know, little kids. His video, was it attacking me? Not necessarily. I made a response video to him first. He made an original video talking about feminism, which was just the stupidest thing on the planet. And so I made a video rebutting that one. He made another video 2 days ago in which he was, he didn't respond to a single one of my points about feminism. He just responded to like the jokes that I made, which was stupid. So it kind of did just add on that, like, the same day that Black Lives Matter was descending upon me, all of these 13-year-olds of Onision were too. But again, I wasn't really even thinking about the Onision fans. It was more the Black Lives Matter people who were actually, you know, potentially a threat.
Those are the most extreme, exactly. But again, it's a peaceful group while they're, you know, shooting at officers' houses and dropping concrete blocks on their head. They're completely peaceful. Sally Cohn told me, CNN told me. Now, I wanted to switch gears. We've got a few minutes left, but transgender bathrooms, you know, we had the big, massive, months-long debate about the North Carolina bathroom bill. Given that transgender people make up about 0.3% of the population, and I don't really know your take on this, but they make up such a small minority of the population. Why is there such a huge debate over this? Why is it even an issue? Why do you think the left is pushing this?
Well, what you're seeing is the politicization of transgenderism, which is so interesting to me. And it's actually one of the main reasons why I started my channel, because I saw what was once, in my mind, just a medical diagnosis suddenly turned into a social justice cause and into, you know, this political game. And as far as the bathrooms go, part of me wishes we could just go back to the days where people didn't know what in the world being trans was, because trans people have been, you know, using the restrooms for as long as they've been around. I think that both sides were kind of dumb on that issue. I think that on one side, there was definitely some rape hysteria coming from the super far right. And on the left-hand side, there was basically like really weird pushes for like gender neutral bathrooms, which most trans people don't even want. Most trans people just identify as one or the other. They don't identify as genderless and something in between. So to me, it was just a big cluster F of things that I didn't even have too strong of an opinion on either way.
So again, it's the left kind of appropriating the narrative from transgender people and again, using them to go after people who they disagree with politically. The point I made was that if somebody wants to identify as a woman, then make the effort to identify as a woman. I mean, you could go in a woman's bathroom at any point, nobody would bat an eyelid. I think the problem lies with the people who just, you know, wishy-washy identify as different people from one day to the next. And that's when it becomes a problem, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the difference between what I call the Tumblrites, the transgenders, and like actual trans people who have had a medical diagnosis and are doing the best with their situation. And the truth is, like you said, if you do make an effort, you should be fine. But it's the people who, like you said, willy-nilly want to go back and forth or say that they're a third gender or whatever. Those people actually, they're co-opting what trans is, and they're actually making it harder for actual trans people. But again, we're such a small percentage of the population. I've never been one to expect some huge dramatic social change to accommodate such a small group, you know?
Exactly. Now we're coming up against the break. So in the final minute, Blaire, just tell people how they can find your YouTube videos, your Twitter account, etc.
Okay, so first of all, my YouTube, which please subscribe. It's youtube.com/Blaire White X, and it's an E at the end of Blaire. My Twitter is twitter.com/MS Blaire White, again with an E on Blaire. And then other than that, you can just Google me and have fun.
Okay, and I'll put this interview up on my YouTube channel so people will be able to see it and share it tomorrow. Blaire White, thanks for joining us.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, there goes Blaire White again. Black Lives Matter is a peaceful group. They don't attack cops. They don't dox people. They don't threaten to reveal their addresses. They don't drop concrete blocks on cops' heads. They don't shoot into cops' home. They don't, put out death threats on Twitter on a minute-by-minute basis. They're completely peaceful. Anyone that says otherwise is a racist. CNN told me, Sally Cohn told me.